We are going to get started. Thank you all for joining the second edition of our Connecting You to Our Conference series. I want to welcome you all. My name is Jonathan Barbarucha, chair of this wonderful section. But you didn't call in to hear from me today. You called in to hear about our conferences. And our conferences, let me just start off by saying our conferences don't start or really happen without the great work of our ABA SEER staff, Catherine, Rachel, Kevin, Donna, like all of them, they put a lot of work and effort in to make our conferences happen. And I would be remiss if I didn't start things off by thanking them. But it also requires the dedication and vision of our conference planning committees led by our conference planning committee chairs, who you're going to hear from now. You're going to hear from our conference planning chairs about two past conferences, our fall conference in Seattle and our environmental justice conference in DC. And then you're going to hear about two, possibly three upcoming conferences, our spring conference in Philadelphia, Water Quality Forum in Detroit, Michigan, and then finally our fall conference, which is going to be held in the DC area. And so I mentioned before, you've heard enough from me today. I am merely emceeing this so that you hear from the actual folks that you came to hear from today. First up is going to be Tracy Williams. Thank you, Tracy, for leading our fall conference planning committee. Could you let folks know what were some of the key takeaways from the fall conference and what I thought was a great city of Seattle?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. So the conference in Seattle was our first fall conference in Seattle, and it was a great time. The planning committee did a good job of a good mix of regional issues impacting environment, energy, and natural resources practitioners, as well as national issues. One of the great panels that we had was a discussion on the Bolt decision. Last year was the 50th anniversary of the Bolt decision. And so it was great to hear how that decision has impacted Native American fishing rights, as well as the future of the decision's impact. And then we also had a really great panel on managing environmental disaster. So what happens? How do you get information out to key players? I thought it was a really great panel, really informative, and I enjoyed the way that the panel had been set up. And then on Friday, we had a wonderful fireside chat that kicked us off that was led by Jonathan and joined by Carlos Evans and Gwen Keys Fleming, and it was on environmental justice. And I bring that up because I know Stacy is going to be talking after me about the one-day environmental justice conference. And so I thought it was a great way to really connect those two conferences. And it was also a great discussion. And then one other panel I want to highlight was our permitting energy and environmental projects panel, which took a look at climate and environmental justice considerations when permitting those projects. So I think you kind of get a flare. There was a lot of discussion, like I said, on regional and national issues, but really a look at getting down a little bit more, looking at tribal concerns and considerations, as well as environmental justice considerations. So I thought it was a great conference, and I will stop there.
No, it was a phenomenal conference, and I believe it was the first time we had actually had any SEER conference, fall or spring in Seattle, and Seattle represented. So again, thank you, Tracy. We covered a lot of topics, and you just had just a perfect segue. I mean, you just I was gonna make a sports analogy, but I was in marching band, so I don't know what that would be. But we're gonna pass it over. Is that it? Pass maybe? To Stacy Halliday to talk about our environmental justice conference. We teed up a lot of issues, especially with the keynote, talking about some of the key and core components of implementing in environmental justice. And then we decided let's do a one-day conference at Howard University. And Stacy, tell us what happened there. What did folks miss?
Thank you, Jonathan. Hi, everybody. So glad we're having this chat today. I had the great pleasure of co-chairing this conference with Lawrence Pittman, and this event took place the week after the election. So I'm grateful to Jonathan for having this vision of an EJ conference, a one-day program at the Howard University School of Law. It's my alma mater and a long-standing bastion of civil rights advocacy, really dedicated to environmental justice and the everyday practitioner, really trying to make the practice of environmental justice something tangible and concrete. So we did so by focusing on certain work streams, avenues and trends in environmental justice, and including voices from communities, NGOs, state government, and federal government agencies. We had great representation. This was a great representation of collaboration across ABA sections because it was co-chaired not only by SEER, but by the Civil Rights and Social Justice section and ABA's Environmental Justice Task Force. So really nice coalition of different interests and expertise across the steering committee as well as the planning groups. And big thanks to the ABA staff team. This was not easy to bring all of those different personalities and disciplines together, and we managed to do it. So notable aspects of the program: pre-conference activities included a service component, which big thanks to Lawrence for coming up with that, for really driving that concept home, where ABA members visited DC middle and high schools using an environmental justice program and curriculum put together by SEER. So really great 1-hour classes. We had really engaged students who asked a lot of tough questions and stumped a couple of longstanding environmental practitioners, but it was really, I had the pleasure of doing it with Jonathan, and it was really, really wonderful. That evening, we had a pre-conference mentorship program and networking gathering, which included participation of folks like Charles Lee, who at EPA is one of the founders of the environmental justice movement, and did mentor-mentee dyads to talk about how they got to know each other, how we came up in private sector, government, and NGO spaces to do EJ work. And then the day of the program, keynote was Dr. Jalon White Newsom, who's the nation's first federal chief environmental justice officer. So a lot of star power in our first remarks. And then we had four panels. So we had the state of play of environmental justice with Bernice Miller Travis as one of the key speakers, and she was one of the other co-authors of sort of fundamental documents for environmental justice, permitting environmental justice, ESG and environmental justice, and a case study focused program. Attendees really ranged across, from longstanding environmental justice advocates to community representatives to NGOs to private practitioners, and we got stars across the board, which is a really tough thing to do with a group that far-ranging, who really shared their thanks for creating a space to talk about these issues, as I said, a week after the election. So big thanks to Jonathan for keeping us confident and feeling like it was a good idea, because there were moments where we're like, oh, the timing is kind of rough. But it was a really great program, and big thanks to SEER and Jonathan for leadership to make it happen.
Yeah, we did it. We did it, Stacy. And you and Lawrence did a phenomenal job. And I believe it was the second time we've had a conference at Howard. And I can tell you it won't be the last. I think the first one was focused on energy. This one was focused on environmental justice. And I'm sure there are a plethora of topics that we can have and discuss at Howard. And I hope we will be back there soon.
Hear, hear.
So again, thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Lawrence. So those were our two past conferences. As you can tell, we covered a lot of different topics. Let's look in the crystal ball now and look toward the future. And Pete's gonna give you a sense of what you can look forward to in Philly, where I believe they still may be celebrating some important sporting event that may have taken place. Again, I'm in marching band. I was in marching band, folks. But we are going to be in Philly. I want to say almost like a month from at the end of this month, the month of March. We're going to be there. What can folks look forward to in Philly?
Well, we will really try to keep the bragging about our Eagles' victory to a minimum. Hopefully, that's largely out of everyone's system by then, but no promises. So yes, the future is coming up fast. We have our spring conference in actually just over 3 weeks, March 26th through 28th. It's going to be in Philadelphia for the first time ever. So we're continuing that trend to expand conferences to different cities, and we're doing our best to represent just as well as Seattle did. So we have a lot going on at this conference, and I'll try to keep it somewhat brief in hopes that folks will check out the full agenda on our wonderful website. So this is an interesting time in history. A lot going on in terms of environmental law, administrative law, the rule of law. So there's a lot to cover, and I think this is going to be a great opportunity to bring together hopefully around 350 people from across the country to talk about a whole range of issues. So we just recently landed two phenomenal keynote speakers that I'm excited to share. We'll be kicking off the conference with Richard Lazarus, a Harvard Law professor and all-around all-star. And he's going to be speaking, sort of contextualizing this moment in history, and sort of looking at the implications for everything that's going on with the new administration. And then on the second day, we have Roger Martella, who is former general counsel for EPA and currently the chief corporate and chief sustainability officer at GE Vernova. So in addition to those, we have 14 awesome panels that we've been working to plan for about 10 months now. So, there are some that are kind of bigger picture, what's going on, how can we, address some of the most pressing things that are happening at the moment. So we have a panel on building for resilience in a changing climate, a panel on enforcement trends and sort of what the future holds for environmental enforcement, a panel on building green infrastructure, and a panel about SCOTUS and sort of recent decisions and what's coming down the pike. And then we also, we really looked at this trying to come at it from a perspective of practicality. What are things that we can, not just what is interesting, but what is useful to folks in their practice that they can bring back and really use in their day-to-day lives. So a couple panels sort of along those lines to highlight. We have a panel that I'm particularly excited about, basically dealing with PRP group dynamics and issues. I probably spend, a third of my billing life on PRP calls and emails and stuff. And I think this is, that's going to be particularly interesting. We have a panel on 404 permitting, sort of the current status of it. Kind of, again, a how-to guide. Panel on negotiating contracts in the world of PFAS. Have to have a PFAS panel in there, or else it's, conference. You can't have a conference without that. But I think this is going to be a really interesting, again, practical take on how to, how do you deal with this? How do you negotiate contracts with PFAS and all the challenges presented there? We have a really, I think, interesting ethics panel, and that's going to focus on dealing with consultants, sort of the ethical issues, privilege, confidentiality, all that. So I think that'll be great. And then we are also trying something new and different this time around. We've actually added a panel to the lineup, and the panel that we added is focused on career transitions and advice and stuff like that. Really kind of aimed at law students and junior lawyers, but again, just really kind of practical advice and war stories. And we have a great group of folks who have bounced around a number of times to kind of share their experiences on that. So in addition to all the wonderful substance that we have, I think it's, these conferences are also super fun. And this will be no exception to that. I think this maybe reveals a little bit about where I am in my life. But like, these conferences are just an absolute highlight of my social calendar. And we really, have a lot planned on that front in terms of just, building connections, networking, a number of receptions, dine-arounds. We actually have a dine-around that's going to be a cheesesteak tour, where we're going to, it's a walking cheesesteak tour to 4 or 5 different cheesesteak places. So that should be awesome. Let's see. I think that is, I think I talked for enough time there. Just one other thing I want to mention is that, in light of what I think Jonathan has called the federal government employment reduction initiative, we have decided, or the section decided, to offer a number of free registrations to former federal government employees who've been impacted by that. So something that we're really proud to offer, and again, information on that is available on the website. Yeah. So it should be a great time. Come to Philly. I am a Philly. I'm based in Philly, so I have a lot sort of riding on this. And I really, we have a fantastic environmental bar here, and I think everybody's really rallied around this and is excited to welcome SEER to the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection.
Thank you, Pete. This is also, you're not alone. It's the highlight for me as well. And I love that you really highlighted one thing that I think is true for all of our conferences. We have a great time. It's about kind of connecting with folks, but it's also, we want folks who attend to bring something back to their practice. And so There will be at least, we hope, at least one panel topic conversation that you will have that you can come back when you come back to the office, wherever that is, your home, a building, what have you, that you will be able to rely on something that you heard at our conference. And so that is certainly a focal point. But it also seems to be a focal point in the chat at the minute about cheesecake or cheesesteak. And my question is, do we have to eat an entire cheese, like a cheesesteak at each stop? Like, how is that going to work? What's the plan there?
So it is, thank you, Maram. It is cheese steak. And we are going to go to 4, including Pat's. And you don't have to, yeah, if you would like to, judgment-free zone, if you would like to eat a cheese steak at each place, that's fine. But, I think it also, you could probably arrange a situation, with a couple other folks to go in on a cheese steak at each place and not have to, do it all alone. And that's going to actually end at the bar that's owned by Rob McElhenney from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fame. So really trying to, double down on the location.
I love it. I love it. Again, I was already looking forward to it, and then you just dropped that one, and now I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Right.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you again, and hope to see a bunch of people at the conference. And again, I shared a link to register for the conference in the chat. After Philly, we're going to go to Detroit. And I'm going to turn things over now to Tanya to talk about the Water Quality Forum in Detroit and really give you a preview of the topics that are going to be covered there, what you can look forward to. Again, we hope that you will join us in Detroit, but we're going to hand it over now to you, Tanya. Please give us an overview. What can folks look forward to in Detroit?
Detroit style pizza will definitely be part of the planning, but I won't piggyback on Peter's food tour there. He's giving me ideas though, but we are 73 days out from the Flow Forward North American Water Quality Conference in Detroit, Michigan. This is an inaugural conference for SEER, and I believe the first in Detroit. We are excited to be there, and we are very much still in our planning phases. We'll have it's a one-day conference. We will start on the 15th with a community service activity and a kickoff reception that's being hosted by our wonderful sponsors at Warner Norcross. And that reception will be open to law students as well. And it will gather us and get us talking about, I think, a really critical issue at this time for our country. The 16th will have 4 panels. The first will focus on water quality and resilient infrastructure, with the emphasis on the age of our nation's infrastructure, it being quite old, and what that means from the perspective of it being susceptible to impacts from climate change. And so we'll talk about ways in which our infrastructure can be made more resilient, and obviously policy around that to support resiliency. The second panel will talk about the nexus between water quality and toxic and emerging and ubiquitous contaminants. We will discuss PFAS, but we'll discuss things beyond that, and also look at impact from industry. Obviously, right now for the current administration, energy development is a key priority, and so we'll look at impacts associated with energy development on water quality as well. The third panel will talk about navigating shared and transboundary water resources. Again, the focus of the conference is on North America, and so we hope to have some international perspectives on that particular panel on all things, including diplomacy, which is also a very interesting topic given the recent change in administration. And then the last panel will be focused on the key challenges and successes in addressing water justice. Of course, Flint, Michigan, just outside of Detroit, went through its own water crises, and we have other models in the United States, including the recent water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi, and obviously there are a number of cities across the country that struggle with challenges relating to water justice. And we are going to look at some case studies and talk about impacts and policy as well in that conversation. Our conference is also co-sponsored by the ABA section of Litigation and Environmental Energy Litigation Committee. And so We were really happy to be able to partner with one of our sister sections. What else can I tell you?
I think you covered it. I mean,
Okay.
we're going to
And
be
you dropped the link, good.
Yeah, and I shared the link in the chat. If folks are interested, please visit the website, share it to your colleagues as well, and register. I agree with you that this issue is one that I think is an important one when we look at our infrastructure. You're spot on, and I love that the panels are going to be addressing that issue as well as what we can do moving forward when it comes to water quality, not just in the U.S., but how does it work within this context of North America? So I'm looking forward to this one. I actually have never been to Detroit, so I'm also looking forward to being in Detroit for the first time, and looking forward to hearing all these great panels and hope to see a few of you there.
And I should note that the conference will be hosted at the University of Detroit Mercy Law School, right in downtown. So very accessible to get to from the airport, and lots of things to do, obviously, in downtown Detroit now. And we will be also providing recommendations on hotels for those that need, if you are
And that's a really good point, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Similar to why we have our conferences at like Howard University, we really like having conferences at law schools because it allows us to engage law students and let them know about what a career looks like in this space. And so this is, I think, fundamental to what the section tries to do with our conferences, especially our one-day conferences, and this one's no different. And hopefully we can engage the students and have a great time and learn together. That's the goal. That's the goal. All right, so that was like the crystal ball looking forward to two conferences. Maram, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am. So after Philly, after Detroit, we will be in the DC area. And Maram is the chair of the planning committee for that conference. Can you give us a preview, even though this one's like well in advance, but can you give us a preview of what folks can expect? And when I say DC area, can you just define that a little bit more for folks who might want to attend?
Sure, Jonathan, happy to do it. And yeah, it's so far in advance that we will be in an officially new ABA year. So we will be very sad to have Jonathan, then formerly the former chair of SEER, but we're very excited to be back in the DC area for the fall conference. Those of you that attended, you'll remember we were in DC a couple of years ago for the fall conference. It's something that SEER is trying to conscientiously bring us back to the DC area every couple of years, given the the importance of a lot of the federal developments and policy changes, and being in and near our nation's capital is always really helpful for that, and especially in this year and a lot of the transitions that are happening in and out of Washington, as well as frankly putting us closer to the EU and a lot of the developments that are happening there, and global developments that are impacting US and global operations and companies. So we're very excited to be back. It'll be in October, so you can't register yet, but you can save the date if you want. So it's October 22nd to the 24th. It's a beautiful time of year to be in the DC area. And to answer Jonathan's question, the DC area, those of you that are from here will know we affectionately call it the DMV. No, we don't mean the Department of Motor Vehicles. We mean DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And we will actually be on the V side of the DMV, so we'll be in Northern Virginia. And last fall conference, that's the Seattle conference that Tracy did a fantastic job in leading, was in the Emerald City, if you guys know what Seattle's called, and we will be in Crystal City. So from the Emerald City to Crystal City, or Arlington, Virginia. Great place, very accessible. Those of you that are familiar with DCA, it's a great and easy, convenient metro accessible area and airport. We also have Dulles, BWI, lots of options for those of you coming in from out of state. And it's really a great opportunity for us, frankly, to be building off of these earlier 2025 conferences. So we are going to have a lot of really important and impactful conversations at the spring conference with Pete's team in Philly, but then also the water issues that we're going to be covering with Tanya and her team in Detroit, and really keeping that momentum going. By the time we hit October, we'll be flipping over Supreme Court terms. We'll be seeing a lot of developments probably around the world. And so we're excited to dive into some of those issues. A lot of the common themes that you'll already be seeing, like like Pete said, we definitely will be talking about PFAS. We will be talking about ESG. We will be talking about Supreme Court decisions and administrative law, the energy transition. That's obviously a very big topic these days. And especially being in the DC area, a lot of the policy changes and developments that we expect to be seeing this year, we'll be monitoring those. And you may not believe it, but we're well into the planning process. We have our topics set. We have a lot of our speakers confirmed. We're very excited. Fantastic job by the planning committee. And keep your eyes open. The registration page will go live sooner than you think.
Yeah, it will, because we like to give folks advance warning so they can save dates and attend these wonderful conferences. And one point I wanted to make is to your point, these conferences don't happen overnight. The planning really involves more than a year of work by the planning committee chairs, the planning committee, ABA SEER staff. And again, as I started the event, I would just want to end it thanking you all, because you all do phenomenal work. You put on events that, again, connect folks, but also that allow them to gain information that's beneficial for their practice of law. And I just want to, again, thank you all, because it is work that is appreciated. I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. So again, just to wrap this all up, and thank you, Maram, for giving us a preview. It's almost like a preview of a preview, because I have a feeling if this event happens again, you're going to be invited to speak. And maybe we'll have a registration link at that point. But that, for now, it's a save the date. And I see the question, and I answered it. Confirm if this is right, Maram. October 22nd to the 24th is the SEER Fall Conference
That's correct.
in Crystal City.
Yes.
Crystal City. So again, I want to respect everyone's time. Thank you all again for attending the event today. We definitely want to see you if at least at one of these conferences, whether it's Philly, whether it's Detroit, or even Crystal City. And hopefully I even saw you all at one of our conferences in Seattle or DC. But in any event, hopefully see you at a future event where we can again connect, get to know one another, and learn something that's beneficial for our practice of law. Thank you all again for attending. Thank you, planning committee chairs, for the incredible work you do. And hopefully I will see everyone soon, if not in Philly. Have a good day.